The Shaykh and Shaykh Mukbil used to say, Ikhwan, a dirham for the one who answers this. I didn't ask a question yet. Now, I'm not that one. Another question. It's a separate question. When one calls the adhan, does one turn the entire body to the right and to the left, or simply the head? Huh? Just the head? You read that? Where'd you read that at? No, where'd you read that at? Don't describe it. Where'd you read that at? Huh? By who? The head. One turns the head. One turns the head. Allah yabarak fikum. 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 Tayyib, the other question, the question we had before, about the yani, what Shaykh Ibn Baz says about the verse. I saw a hand up over here. Huh? هذا ما قال الأخ أنا قلت يعني هذا وجيه جدا، ولكن يعني شكل ابن باز قال شيء آخر، قال شيئا آخر. هذا ما قال يعني similar. He's just Shaykh Ibn Baz says for emphasis, ikhwan. It's for emphasis, to emphasize the point. For emphasis of the point. الله يبارك فيكم. للتأكيد أو توكيد. الله يبارك فيكم. So Shaykh Ahmed Najmi, ikhwan, after mentioning this, after bringing the verse, he says, فَالْحَقْ أَصْحَابُهُ هُمَ الْجَمَاعَةِ. So the people of the truth, ikhwan, they are the jama'ah. The people of the truth, they are the jama'ah. وَإِنْ كَانُوا قَلِيلِينَ. Even if they are few in number. And that goes back to what we said about, talked about earlier. And not to mention, ikhwan, as we said, 72 is more than one. So it's not a matter of numbers. It is a matter of adherence to the truth. We're going to keep going. Is that but we delay a little bit? Khayr, inshallah. In the next chapter that I wanted to read from, not the next chapter, ikhwan, skip to the chapter after the subsequent chapter. باب مجانبة أهل الأهواء وبغضهم. The chapter of avoidance of the people of desires and hatred of them. The chapter of avoidance of the people of desires and hatred of them. And the ulama have mentioned, ikhwan, that one is not sufficient without the other. In other words, one should refrain away from the people of innovation and have bughd for them. It's not like one stays away from them, but he loves them in his heart. He really loves them, but he just stays away, ikhwan, for example, to be seen if the people are like this. But rather one avoids them and has hatred for them. And this is, ikhwan, from the affair and the methodology of Ahl Sunnah. So he mentions, ikhwan, here, Abu Dawud al-Sijistani and Abi Dhar, he mentions as a narration of this, regarding this, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عن أبي ذر قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أفضل الأعمال الحب في الله والبغض في الله. He says that the best of all actions is love for the sake of Allah and hatred for the sake of Allah. Now this narration, ikhwan, Shaykh al-Albani has graded this narration da'if. Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah ta'ala has graded this narration da'if. And I wanted to make a point, ikhwan, that Shaykh Nasr rahimahullah ta'ala, he makes regarding this matter of a weak narration. The question may come, sometimes you'll find a person, for example, may give an elaborate affair regarding a weak narration. Shaykh al-Albani mentions in his the recordings of his life, his autobiography, he talks about his life story. He mentions that when he was teaching in the Islamic University, for example, he would be giving a lesson in the class in hadith. And he would put a hadith on the board, and he would put the chain of narration on the board, and he would put, for example, other narrations, other chains that may be connected to that narration. And he would explain for the students in Kulliyat al-Hadith, in the college of hadith, how that hadith was da'if, how it was weak, where was the point of the weakness in the narration. So he said that what might happen after this, of course, is a student would go from the Kulliyat al-Hadith, he would go from the Hadith classes, and later on in the day, maybe he would have a class in fiqh. So the student would be in a class, and the teacher, without knowing what happened in the Hadith class, he puts the Hadith on the board and gives a long lecture about the rulings that may be extracted from this Hadith. So what does the student do? Yo, Ustadh. He raises his hand. He says, that narration is not authentic. Sheikh al-Albani has clarified A, B, and C in the narration in the chain. This person is weak, or that problem in the chain of narration, or there's someone missing in the chain, or like this. So Sheikh al-Albani, he says, Ikhwan, التأويل فرع عن التصحيح. That the interpretation of the narration is, it branches off of the authenticity. So you must first have authenticity before you have the elaboration or the explanation. And look what he says. إذا صح الحديث ينبغي التفقه فيه. If a narration is authentic, then we extract fiqh from it. We benefit from its meanings, and we delve into it, and we learn from it, and extract those matters we mentioned. He says, أما إذا ثبت ضعفه فحينئذ يقال. He says, but if it is found to be weak, if the narration is found to be weak, then this is what we say, or it is said, هذا الميت لا يستحق هذا العزاء. This dead person doesn't deserve this consolation. In other words, somebody dies and you crying and you booing, he wasn't that good of a person, right? In other words, he doesn't deserve all of that. So the Sheikh is using this phrase, this statement that the people they use to show that if the narration is not authentic, Ikhwan, then of course we do not delve into the affair in that manner. Now we do find, Ikhwan, like if you come from those in the past who might explain weak narration, and from that oft times, Ikhwan, they are trying to show us like if you come something that may be an asl min al-usul. It may be a principle from the principles, and therefore they clarify that in the explanation of that particular narration, and for other reasons, as Sheikh al-Albani and others have mentioned. But that was a tremendous point that Sheikh Nasr mentions regarding the narration, and therefore, Ikhwan, it is incumbent upon us, and it behooves us, Ikhwan, to know the authenticity of a narration, especially before we begin to speak in the matter of the religion, and to build principles, and to build actions and to perform actions in the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One should be certain, Ikhwan, and verify the authenticity of the narration first and foremost. Before one says, Qala Allah, Qala Rasul, Qala Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, one should verify, Ikhwan, that particular narration is authentic. One should clarify that particular narration is authentic. Allah yabarik. So therefore, Ikhwan, in this regard, if the narration is not authentic, Shaykh al-Albani says that the origin of the affair is that we do not delve deeply into the matter. The Shaykh says that he grades that narration to be weak. Rahimahullah ta'ala. Shaykh Ahmed Najmi, Ikhwan, before that, he mentioned the narration of Ka'b ibn Malik. The narration of Ka'b ibn Malik, Abu Dawud brings a second after this in the chapter. The narration of Ka'b bin Malik, ya Ikhwan, when he remained back from the Tabuk expedition. When he remained back from the Tabuk expedition, he mentioned the narration, نهى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم المسلمين عن كلامنا أيها الثلاثة. The Prophet ﷺ forbade the Muslims from speaking to us three. حتى إذا طال علي تصورت جدار حائط أبي قتادة وهو ابن عمي فسلمت عليه فوالله من رد علي السلام. And this, Ikhwan, is a tremendous narration. So it mentions, Ikhwan, that when this affair took place with Ka'ab and the other two from the noble companions, that Ka'ab ibn Malik passed by the wall of the house of his cousin Abu Qatada. Now one can imagine, Ikhwan, your cousin, your relative, your near relative, the love that you have. Most of us, we have for our relatives. We should have for our relatives. So he passed by his cousin, Ikhwan, and he gave him the salams. And look what he said, Wallahi ma radda alayhi salam. By Allah, he did not return the salams. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ had forbade him from returning the salams. So Abu Dawud al-Sijistani, Ikhwan, he brings this narration in this chapter, and we'll read in a moment, Ikhwan, the point of reference. Why did he mention this narration in this particular chapter? Shaykh Ahmed Najmi, he says, مجانب أهل الأهواء وبغضهم في الله من الأمور المحتمة في الدين. He says, Ikhwan, that staying away from, avoiding the people of innovation, staying away from them, and disliking them, hating them, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is from the definitive matters of the religion. It is from the definitive matters of the religion. So, من أسس الدين الحب في الله والبغض في الله. And this, as we said, a fundamental from the fundamentals of Al-Islam. He says, from the fundamentals of the religion is love for the sake of Allah and hatred for the sake of Allah. والموالات فيه والمعادات فيه. And loving and uniting for it, and hating and separating for it. لن يبلغ العبد كمال الإيمان إلا بذلك. And no servant will reach that level of complete faith, complete iman, except by this. Except by loving for the sake of Allah and hating for the sake of Allah. And that is how one, Ikhwan, tastes the what? The sweetness of faith. Halawat al-iman. This is how one tastes the sweetness, Ikhwan, of faith. فَإِذَا حَبَّ الْعَبْدِ لِلَّهِ وَأَبْغَضَ لِلَّهِ. So if one loves a servant for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or hates someone for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَوَالَ لِلَّهِ, and they unite with that person for the sake of Allah, وَعَادَ لِلَّهِ, and they have enmity or they separate from that person for the sake of Allah, وَبَذَلَ مِنْ أَجْلِ اللَّهِ, they give for the sake of Allah, وَمَنَعَ مِنْ أَجْلِ اللَّهِ, and they hold back for the sake of Allah, فَذَلِكَ هُوَ الَّذِي بَلَغَ كَمَالَ الْإِيمَانِ. This is the one who has reached that level, Ikhwan, of the completeness of faith, of Iman. تحب الرجل الذي لا يقربك في النسب. So you love a person, Ikhwan, even if he's not your near relative, even if he's not your uncle, your cousin, even if he's not your brother, you love him, ya Ikhwan, even if he's not from your near relative. ولا هو من جيرانك, nor is he from your near neighbor. الذين تتعاون معهم, those who you have some mutual dealings with, that you aid, for example, they aid you. ويتعاونون معك على جلب المصالح المشتركة بينكم, that you have some mutual benefit between yourselves. So as neighbors, for example, you do things for each other, so therefore you may have love for the person based upon that. The Shaykh is saying, no, you don't love the person because they're close to you in relation, or close to you as your neighbor. لكنه رجل بعيد عنك في الدار. Rather, this person is far from you, is distant from you. He doesn't live close to you. بعيد عنك في النسب. He has no close blood relation to you. He's far from you in relation. He may be from another country, from another ethnicity. يبلغك عنه بأنه صاحب سنة. But it reaches you that he is a man of the sunnah. It reaches you that this man, he may be in Spain, he may be in China, he may be in an entirely different nation, has no relation to you, no connection to you, but it reaches you that he is a man of the sunnah, and you love him because he is a man of the sunnah. Not a near relative, not a neighbor, not someone who was giving you some kind of benefit, simply because he is a man of the sunnah, you love him for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَتُحِبُّهُ لِلَّهِ إذا بلغت إلى هذا الحد فأنت مؤمن. The Shaykh says, so if you have reached this level, if you have reached this level of this place, this degree, then you are a believer, meaning a believer in truth. A believer in truth. كذلك أيضا يبلغك عن المبتدع يكون قريبا لك. He said at the same time, when likewise it reaches you that an innovator is from your near relatives, someone who is close to you. تتحقق بدعته. His bid'ah becomes established with you. وَتَرَى إِنْحِرَافُ, and you have seen his deviation. You have witnesses in his deviation. فَتُبْغِضُهُ لِلَّهِ, and you hate him for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَإِنْ كَانَ أَقْرَبَ النَّاسِ إِلَيْكَ, even if he be from the closest of the people to you. Even if Ikhwan be the closest of your relative to you, Ikhwan, you hate him for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَإِنْ كَانَ شَقِيقَكَ فِي النَّسِبِ, even if he is your blood brother from your